Hi, I'm Kelly Barham, and welcome to the February edition of Life Path. It's February, the kids are back in school, Valentine's Day is around the corner, and the hectic holiday season is behind you. So how are your health goals going so far? Well, if you set them, I'm sure they're going great. But if you need some help, maybe a little motivation or expert advice on how to live healthy, remember, Life Path, along with your chiropractor, are here for you. So this month's show, as all the ones in the past and all the ones in the future, will help you do just that. Help you live a healthy chiropractic lifestyle. So please, pay close attention. And should any questions arise, don't be afraid to turn to your chiropractor. He or she can be a great source of additional information that can help you in making right decisions when it comes to your health. And don't let the information end there. Think of all the people in your life. Help them get on the path of healthy living that you've been fortunate enough to get on yourself. It's really not that hard to do. Next time you're in a chiropractor's office, just ask for a nice stack of business cards to take along with you. Because, as you know, spending time with family, friends, and acquaintances, the discussion often turns to the latest aches and pains or the list of endless drugs they're all taking. This is such a great time to slip them your chiropractor's card and tell them about chiropractic. Yes, I know. Some will look at you very strangely and even challenge your belief in chiropractic because of all the misinformation they've all adopted. But you know what? There will be those people in which you may be the person they were looking for, the person to guide them to a better form of health care and better health overall. All because you weren't too embarrassed to speak up. So please don't be afraid to go out and tell people about the benefits of chiropractic care and what your chiropractor can do for them. You can actually have a positive impact on someone's life and their families too. Now, with that being said, why don't we learn a little more about true health? Let us get on with this month's show. As I just mentioned, it is February, so what is that special holiday that all the women tend to love? It's Valentine's Day. Now think of a typical Valentine's Day standard. A fuzzy teddy bear, a heart-shaped box of chocolates, right? Tasty? Yes? Healthy? Not really. Now if you're thinking that we're going to mess with your tradition, the answer is no. We're just going to make it better and healthier. Now, if you didn't think that that was possible, let Dr. Harlan Sparrow, who will be joining us shortly, introduce you to a super healthy variation of chocolates that you can even make at home. Because I neither want to ruin your Valentine's Day or the surprise of what this chocolate is, I hope that you'll listen up because you're about to up the standards of your Valentine's Day. And if you're making it for someone special, trust me, you will top their sweet list. Now, we're hearing more and more about natural childbirth, either done at home or in the birthing centers across the nation. If you are still thinking that's crazy, I want you to become more informed as to why so many couples are making that decision. To find out the reasons and the benefits of home birth, if that is still not the norm to you, we'll be joining Dr. Zachary Wells and his wife Mercedes. They have a wonderful perspective as they just became new parents to a healthy, happy baby boy. Next, it's time to grab those dumbbells and build up some of those muscles with a little weight and strength training. Okay. I hear you, ladies, and some guys too. You don't want to look like a bodybuilder, right? The thing is, strength training is so much more than just bulking up. It's actually an important element in staying healthy and fit. So to show you how easy weight and strength training can actually be, trainer Gloria Goulding will introduce you to a routine that anyone really can do, even you. So no more excuses. Then, an important story you don't want to miss, especially if you are a parent. Should you or shouldn't you vaccinate your children? It's a decision that we can't make for you. The only thing is that we ask you is that you listen to Dr. Tim O'Shea, a notable author and speaker on the subject of vaccinations, and then make an informed decision for yourself. But first, many of us end up visiting a chiropractor because of an obvious injury, perhaps a fall, a car accident, or a sports injury, injuries that usually result in back or neck pain. There are people, however, who have also turned to chiropractic as a last resort to find relief from chronic illness or pain. What is interesting is that often they have no idea how their illness got started to begin with. To help us understand more about the body's relationship to well-being and how chiropractic can help, let's join Dr. Tom Dickerson right now.
So I'd like to talk to you today about what we call the threshold of reactivity. Now, this is not something I came up with. In fact, it's something I came across a website of another chiropractor, Dr. Tim O'Shea in California. And I do direct my patients to that website quite often because it's got a wealth of information about how to lead a healthier life. And I use that particular term in here often because it helps people understand better why they're having chronic health pain issues. Now, oftentimes people come into the office because of some kind of a trauma. And it's easy for them to understand why they're having a health problem because of a fall or a car accident. That's pretty easy to pick up. It becomes more of a challenge, however, when they're having health issues that kind of come and go, and their body seems to have issues only once in a while. Those are chronic stresses. And the thing is, oftentimes it's because of nervous system stresses that your body has trouble adapting to. And that's another term we use in the office quite often, adaptation. Our bodies have this really cool ability to adapt to all kinds of different stresses, whether they're internal and external. And they come in different forms. I already mentioned a couple: a fall, an auto accident. There could be a trauma at birth, learning how to walk and falling down, riding your bike for the first time and falling down. Those are all easily understandable examples of a physical trauma. But we don't always think about other kinds of stresses in trauma. There can be a chemical stress that we're all subject to, whether, again, it's external or internal. Eating food that doesn't support your body well. Taking medications, again, for the symptoms that oftentimes flare up as a result. There can also be mental and emotional stresses. We all have different kinds of stresses in our life, whether it's school stresses or relationships or work-related issues. We're all subject to those. The body has a wonderful ability to adapt to those stresses as long as there's not too much stress on the nervous system. And so getting back to the term threshold of reactivity, let's just say the threshold's right up here. We want to experience health down here. This means that there's not too many stresses going on that our body can't handle. But when you start mounting those stresses up one on another and it gets closer and closer to that threshold and it finally peaks over the top, that's oftentimes when people start noticing these chronic health issues, whether it's a runny nose or a headache or flu, you name it. The problem is oftentimes people will try to squish those symptoms by taking some kind of a medication. And oftentimes it works quite well of getting you just below that threshold so you don't feel the symptoms. The problem is you're sitting right under that threshold, and oftentimes it doesn't take too much to put you right back over the top. Now, in the chiropractic office, one of the main issues we're looking for is a healthy nervous system. As I said, everything you experience in life is filtered through your nervous system. So if there's any kind of stress on your nervous system, it's going to make it tough for your body to adapt. So the biggest thing you want to do is make sure your nervous system is functioning to its peak, and that's getting your spine adjusted and getting checked at least on a regular basis. If there's interference and your chiropractor finds there's a problem, you make an adjustment, you increase the body's ability to adapt, and you're going to experience health to a greater extent. However, if you are relying on those medications to keep you just below that threshold, or if you're not taking care of all the other issues that you need to, that keep you well below that threshold, then you're going to have problems. Now let me elaborate a little bit. That includes things like making sure that you get the proper amount of sleep that you should. Our bodies need to regenerate on a regular basis. You need to have exercise on a regular basis. We were built to move, not to sit on our rear ends all the time in front of the TV or computer. We need to get up and get out there and move. We need to support our body with really good food. Food that's as close to its natural state as possible. All the processed foods that we're subject to bring us higher and higher and closer to that threshold. There are other issues, in fact, as well that we have to take care of. The thing is, we have control over those. You have control. You have to learn how to take responsibility for your health. So you got to make sure that you're getting the exercise that you should. You got to make sure that you're getting the rest that you should. Eat better food, and surround yourself with people that will help support you with a positive, a healthy mental attitude. That makes a big difference as well. Those are all important factors because they'll lower you or get you farther below that threshold so that you can be experiencing health to a greater extent. Now here's the problem. All too often people don't consider those things. You can be getting your spine checked and that's great, and that's the most important thing, but if you're not doing all of those other things, it's not going to be quite as effective. So I want you to take those things into account and make sure that you're doing those so that you can get the most out of your chiropractic adjustment. Now, if any of that makes sense to you, good. I'm trying to keep things as simple as I can. I want you to take time to go to Dr. O'Shea's website. It's called thedoctorwithin.com. There's a wealth of information on that website. I've sent patients to that website many times because it helps them understand about the things that we've talked over and even more. The last thing I want to talk to you about is how long should you wait before you address these chronic health issues? Should you wait until you're right below the threshold, or should you do what you can to be keeping it from getting there in the first place? In our office, we like to see kids in here because they respond so incredibly well to chiropractic. Not only that, it helps keep them from getting too close to that threshold in the first place. So my question to you might be, how long are you going to wait before you get your kids checked? Just because they don't have any outward signs or symptoms doesn't mean that they're that threshold, or they're getting closer and closer to that threshold. Get their little nervous systems checked. If they need adjusted, great, they can get adjusted, and they can keep them well below that threshold, and they can be experiencing life the way they're supposed to. Also teach them about the other factors. Make sure they're getting the exercise, getting the rest. They're getting supported with really good nutrition and the positive mental attitudes that we all need to see, because way too often we're exposed to all the negative stuff that really compounds the stresses. It doesn't have to be that way. The last thing I'm going to leave you with is your health is your responsibility. Your chiropractor is there to teach you what you can do to keep your spine and nervous system healthy. And I would certainly hope you'll take this information and utilize it not only for your family, but for someone that you might have in your circle of influence that's having problems. Chiropractic could ultimately change their lives. And that may sound corny, but it's the truth. We get to see it in our office every day, and I would certainly hope it's something that you would take to heart and that you would make available for your friends and family.
As I promised you, it's time to up your Valentine's Day experience. We're talking about making our own healthy chocolates. If you didn't think that was possible, why don't we join Dr. Harlan? He promises they'll be healthy and delicious. And it looks like he's ready to go, so follow me to the kitchen. So, we're here with Dr. Harlan Sparrow. Glad to have you again.
Good to be back.
Wonderful.
Thanks.
As I said earlier, I told them that we're going to be learning from you how to make healthy chocolate, and it tastes good too.
Right. Well, this is raw chocolate that we'll be making today. We make the raw chocolate out of cacao butter and cacao powder. Now, the way we get cacao butter and cacao powder is we start with cacao nibs. So these are cacao nibs. Now, they cold press them the same way they cold press olive oil. And you get two constituents when you do that. You get cacao butter and cacao powder. Now, this is not to be confused with cocoa powder.
Okay.
Cocoa powder is different. There are different things. We'll talk about them later. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with the cacao butter. We're going to add this to a double boiler. A double boiler is simply a pot and another pot with boiling water inside. So we're going to add this to the top pot, and these babies are going to melt.
This is it's like butter, but it's just from the beans.
Just like Barbara Streisand, it's like butter. So what we're going to see, what you're going to want to do at home when you do this, is you're going to want to heat this to exactly 108 degrees, okay? That's really critical.
But you don't do that because you're good.
I'm good. I know what we're dealing with. I'm going to be watching it.
Okay.
And when this totally melts, it'll be the right temperature. But for you at home, that's what I'd suggest you do.
So we got to wait for this to melt completely before we add anything else.
Right.
Okay.
Then we're going to add our
So-
liquid ingredients.
Well, then I have a question for you while we're waiting on this. A little bit of history on chocolate, or the cocoa. Why are people so drawn to it? A little bit of that.
Well, a long time ago, the Aztecs used to use it as currency.
Really?
Yeah, they take cacao beans, and that's how they bought and sold things. A cow would be 6 beans or 8 beans. And so they actually use it for money. They also made this really great drink called chocolatl, which you can actually make at home from the cacao powder and a little bit of cayenne pepper and some water. So that's kind of an interesting
That
drink.
would be interesting to drink.
Yeah, now Cortez, when he went to do the conquistador thing, he actually brought this back to Europe, and that made chocolate popular.
Wow.
Now, of course, they started doing some interesting things to it
I'm sure.
in Europe that weren't exactly so pure and spiffy.
Okay.
And that's created the kind of chocolate you see today, which is not so good for you.
Because
if it
what's
has
the
any
reason
chocolate.
then? I mean, because you were talking about raw chocolate versus what we say conventional. I'm reading my sign, so it's conventional. Got to make sure I get the right words in there. So, well, I mean, so what's the difference? Because we're all so used to that. Go to the store, get some chocolate, and eat it. So.
All right, well, let's say you go to the farm and get some broccoli, okay?
Okay.
You want to eat that broccoli, right?
Sure.
So you're going to take the broccoli, you're going to chop it up. You're going to steam it. You're going to get it nice and crispy and green. You're going to say, wow, I got most of the nutrients in it, if not all.
And then I'm
going
gonna
to
eat
eat
it.
that.
Right.
That's going to be good, right? You would think. But you know what they do instead? This is an analogy, of course. Imagine taking the broccoli, boiling it to death, but then cooling it. Then boiling it to death again and add some potassium hydroxide. Cool it, take the potassium hydroxide out, boil it to death another time, and maybe add some milk to it. And then
my
cool it
gosh.
again. Now, how nutritious is that going to be?
Doesn't sound like it.
Yeah, and not so tasty either. So the actual original chocolate taste of it is going to be different. Now I'm just letting this finish heat up. And once it's done heating up, we're going to start adding the other ingredients.
Okay.
Next ingredient we're going to add to this is agave nectar. Now agave nectar is an important ingredient because it's a sweetener with a glycemic index of 40. Now that's important because if you're a diabetic like myself, you can actually eat this chocolate with impunity or because it tastes good. Now, this agave nectar we're about to add, this is a particular kind of agave nectar that has no water in it. The problem is most conventional agave nectar you buy, sadly, will be loaded with water. And when it has water to cut it, because water is cheaper, the problem we're going to have is it's going to make the chocolate stick in the mold and be more fudgy than it is like a hard candy.
Okay.
So, you know the story Like Water for Chocolate, the movie?
Ooh, yeah.
That's why,
an old
because
one,
you
but
don't
good
want to
one.
mix water and chocolate.
Okay.
Not even a drop. Now, the problem also extends further because with vanilla, it's the same thing. Most available vanilla that you will see, unlike this, is going to be in a liquid form. And the vanilla in a liquid form, sadly, will be diluted with
Water.
exactly. And it's going to mess up
Didn't
your
used to be
chocolate.
that way.
You didn't know, but they
Okay.
changed it recently. So we're going to add a teaspoon of this and drop that in. And this is vanilla powder, which you can buy in select health food stores. You can also buy ground up vanilla beans and use that. We want to use a teaspoon. Basically, the magic recipe is 3, 2, 1, and 1. So 3 cups of the butter, 2 cups of the powder, 1 cup of the agave nectar, and a teaspoon of the vanilla. That's the magic recipe. Now that we've got the liquid mixed, we're going to add the solids. So there's only one other solid ingredient left to add, and it is the cacao powder. So we drop that in, mix it up, and the scary part about this is it's really that easy to make. I mean, it's kind of scary easy.
Yeah, it just seems like there's a lot more to it, but
There's not.
It's the simplicity
It's a
of
very
it.
simple food to eat and make.
It looks
And
good.
it tastes so good.
it's very
Now,
good.
we're going to show you how to just pour it and mix it, of course. Now, what's going to happen is there's a key aspect to making the raw chocolate that we're going to make sure you know about, and that's called tempering. Tempering the
Tempering.
chocolate means
It's in the ice.
we cool it, exactly. So if you look at this, it's nice and mixed and looks delish. And you know,
Okay.
you could actually just lick the spoon, it's that good. And you can just lick the spoon.
You want me to lick
that's
the spoon, huh?
it. Yes. Or, yeah, that's it. Now drop this if you would in our
Wow.
ice water bath.
That is pure.
And
It's got a
that's
pure
going to harden
taste
back
to
up
it.
again.
So we're going to leave this in here because the chocolate's got to get completely solid all the way through. And so we'll come back after it's solid and do the rest. Okay? Be right back. Okay, so it looks solid now. And see that? That's what we want it, completely solid. So that's done. And you said we're going to, it's called tempering it?
Tempering is
Tempering it.
correct.
Okay, so we're going to temper it now. And what we want is it basically getting a liquid again.
Exactly. We're going to go from solid to liquid. And
Okay.
it's going to take a few minutes to do.
All right, so
And I'm
let's,
going to stir it as we go.
all right, so we'll be back with that too. It's going to take a few minutes. We'll be right back though. Okay.
So we're just about done melting this now. I'm just going to stir on the last bits of this, then we're going to pour it out. As you can see, the pieces, after a few minutes,
God, it smells good.
have heated up. Now, again, I want to remind everybody that you want to make sure not to make this too hot. So you'll want to use some gauge of temperature to do that. Thermometers are handy, and you want something that's going to measure about 108. I'm going to take this out now and let it heat up the rest of the way on its own.
So we're done with this?
We're done with that, yeah, because
Okay.
we don't want to overheat the chocolate. I think that's in the bad category.
That's in the bad
And
category.
we're just going to get the last bits of this dissolved, and I think we're good now.
Okay.
So now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to pour the chocolate. And of course, this spoon is quite lickable.
Yes, always.
We've got a cool ladle here.
That's good.
And what we're going to do, of course, with
That's
this,
cute.
you could actually pour right off.
I like your little ladle.
This has a cool feature, this particular double boiler.
That is nice.
And you can actually pour right in.
So a few chunks is okay?
Yeah, because it's going to reharden anyway.
Okay.
But the more conventional way of doing it, I'll demonstrate too,
Nice.
which is to simply take this and get this. so
With
you
your
can see
little
it.
ladle.
And you can just pour with the little cool ladle and go like that. And that's also spiffy. And that's how we do it.
That's how we do it. And so you can have different types of molds, of course.
Oh, there are many kinds of molds. And when we show the finished product in a moment, you'll
Okay.
see all the cool different kind of molds you can use. And any candy place will sell these molds. You can get them
Nice.
out of silicone, like this one is, which cleans really easily. You can get them out of plastic, or if you're really serious, you can get out of polyvinyl carbonate, which is actually, it makes a great mold.
Yeah.
You can clean it very easily, and they're pretty indestructible.
So while you're pouring that, as he said, Dr. Harlan said we have some samples here. And here we go. Look at this.
These are tasty. Would you have one of these?
Oh, okay.
I'm going to make you eat chocolate against
Okay,
your
fine.
will.
All right. Oh my gosh, good.
Got to make this at home.
Ladies, happy Valentine's Day.
Happy Valentine's Day.
Thank you.
Enjoy your chocolate.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're
Dr.
welcome.
Harlan. This is incredible. I love it.
I'm going to go bite.
Okay. Think of childbirth. Scary, frantic. The suitcase, the car ride, the hospital paperwork that seems ill-timed, the doctors, the nurses, the unfamiliar faces. A hospital birth can be a very impersonal experience. Between the drugs and the unnecessary procedures, there is a safe alternative. Natural home birth. Today, more and more couples are opting to have children either at home or in natural birthing centers. What is it that they know that is guiding their decision making, and what is it that you, especially if you're thinking of having a baby, should be aware of? To learn more, let's join Dr. Zach Wells, his wife Mercedes, and their infant son. Let's go learn what made them opt to have a natural childbirth and what was it like. Childbirth. You may be thinking about it, something in your future, something to look at is natural childbirth. Some people are a little awkward with it, but it's coming in naturally, not to use the word, but how are you today?
I'm doing well.
This is Dr. Zach Wells and his wife Mercedes. How are you? Tell us more about natural childbirth. What is natural childbirth? I mean,
That's good. I think defining it is an excellent starting place. Natural childbirth is having a child from essentially from start to finish without using drugs, without using pain medications, really trying to avoid as much intervention as possible and allowing the process to proceed the way it was naturally designed to do. The body it's designed for it. That's part of what women are designed for. And it was neat watching her go through the process and seeing everything just happen in an orderly fashion and without much effort on her part. It was all designed to function that way, and it was just a matter of removing interference to that process and allowing that to proceed the way it was supposed to.
yeah, I think it's become more of a business. I know we've heard this before, but it just seems that way because, like you said, it's been going on for thousands of years, people. And there was no intervention. Yes, there are times where there's issues. And that's something I was going to ask you about because we say home birth here, and some people are doing it in the home. When you say your natural childbirth, how was that done with you? Was it in the home or?
We chose a birthing center, and we could have chosen a hospital. We could have chosen to do it at home. We were guided towards a birthing center by our midwife and our MD.
Midwife.
There are lots of options. You just choose to do the natural way, and you can do it in the environment in which you feel most comfortable.
A lot more of the hospitals are actually offering that. They actually have natural, what was the term you said, birthing rooms or whatever?
Birthing center.
It's birthing center, and they're making it more, birthing suite, there you go. That's a vacation, honey, not really. But birthing suite, but they're making it more environmentally acceptable to the moms and the family, right?
Yeah, and
That's great. And comfortable.
is a big thing. Just making sure that the mother is comfortable, because the more comfortable she is in the environment, the more relaxed she'll be, and then that means that the baby's going to be more relaxed. And ultimately, it's part of getting both her and the baby in the right frame of mind and relaxed, so that everything happens just the way it's supposed to.
Great. I think we talked off stage, there's more indoctrination towards the medical field. And again, there are times where you do have to have a medical doctor in a hospital. But what you're saying is this natural childbirth, you're talking from the point you had conception and you said, oh, we're going to have a child. It's a process.
It is a process. It's especially for the mother. It definitely includes the father as well. And it's just so important for him to be there and listen to what the mother is learning. I mean, this is a whole education you're receiving.
Sure it is.
And it's a process. And so going through, this is mostly from your midwife. And yes, I'm sure you can find an MD that believes, naturally as well, and they'd be a great source of information. But it's learning and going through the steps of what to expect, and things that could happen. Obviously, like you said, medical intervention, there is a time and place for medicine. But in most cases, if you do it, you're healthy, your diet, your stress levels are low, you have a full and willing to learn and understand the process which is going to happen, it minimizes the intervention.
And that's a really big part. I mean, myself being a doctor, I learned all sorts of different things about how this process works. But for her, it was starting a new process of learning everything. And it was amazing to me how much I thought I knew the process. And then as we really got into it, how much we learned together about what we were supposed to do and the little things. And we know a lot about nutrition from my field and when working with patients. But the amount of nutrition and the quality of nutrition that we were supposed to be putting into her to make sure that everything progressed and developed the way it was supposed to, that was something new for me. And it was really interesting that a friend of ours who was pregnant at the same time and went the much more medical route in all of her information, she did not get that the way that we did.
Nutritional wise.
And
really? Because you hear that, because we went through that when my wife had our child, and I remember talking about nutrition, but maybe not as much as it should be. Well, not as much as we do, especially on the show, so you're right. So you said you got a lot more of that? Realistically?
I mean, there are booklets we receive, there are videos. She encourages us to share them with all our friends, so I had the most interesting conversations with my friends. We're both in week this and week that. What'd your doctor tell you? Well, my doctor advises this and this. Well, my midwife advises, 100 grams of protein a day, minimum. And she was floored. She's like, I have to what? I said, absolutely.
So she's feeling left out.
She actually did.
Sounds like it.
She was fully intrigued. She didn't understand why she wasn't receiving the same information I was.
That is interesting. I wonder why. But, I guess they're just so centered on making sure everything's medically okay and letting you know about the vaccinations. Well, your child's going to come out. We're going to give you these vaccinations. That was a question because you're saying the difference. Because I remember when my child was born and they put something on the eyes. I was wondering what. I don't remember that when I was born. My mother didn't say anything about that. Now they put a. What is it again?
Well, there's a variety of things that they'll do to a baby right when it's born.
Okay.
And some of it may be that they want to inject the baby right away with vitamin D so that it has vitamin D in the body. It may be that they want to wipe some antibiotic cream on the eyes to make sure that the baby isn't going to get some type of infection. And everything from even checking for hepatitis type scenarios for the baby. And so many of those things are just really not very common in our culture and in our society. And they're making sort of an abstract and just like a broad-based type of care and treatment for things that are really not very common, really not very very circumstantial, if it's even going to be there or not, as opposed to taking every case as a case-by-case basis. I mean, if the mother is an IV drug user, then you're going to definitely need to do some different things. But when the mother is naturally healthy and is doing the things she needs to do to help promote the health of the baby and the development of the baby, then there's so many things that are simply not necessary that there's no need for intervention.
So it seems like it's almost like a liability issue. Let's just cover all bases.
Yes,
absolutely,
and in many ways.
And we talk about that all the time in the news. You hear about it, the liability. Everybody's going to sue for something, but it just sounds like it's so much more inviting to have a child. Because you hear this. My wife is, oh, I got to have a child. Oh my God, we're going to go in here. We got to do this. She was getting stressed out about it, but this sounds so much more inviting and so much more enjoyable.
It is. It
Right.
is. It's not, it takes away the word process. This isn't a step-by-step process. It enables the woman, it makes the mother feel like she's on this journey. You are feeling empowered that you can do this.
I think that's important.
It's, the word natural. We were designed to do this. It's really a test. It's how strong am I?
Great.
How good am I going to be to myself? And so it's wonderful. As a woman, it made me feel amazing. I think, I think that the fathers don't really receive that.
Nah, we don't. It is all about you, and it is you about the child. It is. We want to be involved. I did.
Yes.
And that's great to hear from you too. I love it because it is important. This is great. I'd like to have someone who's had both, medical side and the natural side, and see what there is. You've only had this your first child,
Yes.
so I'd like to see that. You know what I'm saying? That's what I like to see. Well, I appreciate it. This has been great. If you ever had a thought, here we go. I was wondering if we're going to get Sawyer. And how old are you?
He's 1 month, 32 days today.
32 days. Beautiful child. And it worked great for you, right?
Yes.
And I think I was going to ask you, what about stress on the child? What's the difference in that?
Oh, it was amazing. His heart rate never went above 120 through the whole pregnancy, and that's normal. That's it, right where it should be. He was just perfect, just nice, calm, and easy, just along for the ride. She was the one doing all the work. He was just getting pushed.
He was going through for the ride. That's what you say. E-ticket ride, if anybody remembers that. Wonderful. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having us.
Well, I hope you come back and we'll show something else. Not anytime soon. I'm sure you're not ready to have another one yet, but beautiful child. Thank you. Something to think about. Natural childbirth. Hey, you. Weightlifting and strength training are often associated with bodybuilders. Is that the extent of your understanding? So often you hear people say, I do work out, I do yoga, I do aerobics, swimming. I'm really not interested in weightlifting, however. It's especially true for women because of the belief that weight training will lead them to bulk up. In reality, it's not true. Well, perhaps give body some tone, but the health benefits associated with strength training are noteworthy, especially when it comes to benefiting women. To learn more and to see how you can start, even in the comforts of your own home, let's join our trainer, Gloria Goulding. She has a wonderful routine that you can get started with right now. And since you can see I already did my workout, well, I actually don't want to get all sweaty. So I convinced Dr. Zach to stick around and help. I think they're in place and ready to go. So let's join Gloria and Dr. Zach.
If your lifestyle does not control your body will control your lifestyle. I have Dr. Zachary Wells with me today, and we are going to show you how strength training can help you live a better lifestyle. Dr. Wells, how are you?
I'm doing well, Gloria.
Excellent. Well, first of all, I think we need to let them know what would improve in their life if they did a strength training program on a regular basis, which would be 3 times a week. If allowed, you will get some benefits from 2 times a week. So the first thing that I would like to share with you is that low back pain will definitely improve. Arthritic pain will improve. You also will improve your resting blood pressure. The other thing that happens, and this is very important for women and people of all ages, is it does help halt bone loss, and it will even help restore bone loss.
Probably the most important thing if you want to stop bone loss is exercise with weights, with some sort of strength training.
Yes, and it also will improve your balance. It helps your glucose metabolism. It helps the aging process. It helps revitalize your whole life. And that's why I do feel that every American out there and citizen out there should do more strength training.
It's in your best interest.
Okay, so why would they do strength training?
Well, if you wanted to strengthen your body, it'll improve lean muscle mass. What happens when you improve lean muscle mass?
When you improve lean muscle mass, you burn more calories even when you're resting. Love that component.
So you're not doing anything and you're actually burning calories?
If you put more lean muscle mass, for example, 1 pound of muscle will give you 35 more calories a day that you burn. So if you have 6 pounds of muscle, more put on your body, you're going to burn 210 more calories. That is exciting to me, considering it takes 3,500 calories to make 1 pound. You can see where 6 pounds of muscle, in 2 weeks' time, you could actually drop 1 pound. And that is one of the reasons that strength training is so important. The other is with women, and as we talked about the bone loss with osteopenia and osteoporosis, it is very important that we keep our bone and our structure strong so we can do all the things we love to do. Shopping, hiking, you know, whatever it is.
Sure.
Okay? So Dr. Wells is going to demonstrate the basic major muscle groups for us so you would know where to start. Here again, this is for all ages, it's for beginners. We are going to have him show the exercises, but you need to know that it is 3 sets and 8 to 12 reps. But if you're one of these people who go, wow, that's way too much, I can't start there, please start with what you're comfortable with. 1 set, maybe only 8 reps, if that's what it is. You'll know when you need to move it on up, okay? So Dr. Wells, let's start with an overhead press.
Sure, I'm going to use these weights right here.
Okay.
Of course, you can use lighter weights if you need to.
Yes.
And could you use no weights at all?
You definitely could use no weight. You could use just your body weight.
Excellent.
And that's one of the things to be aware of is as you do increase, let's say you start out using just your body weight. You want to increase your weights eventually, okay? And you'll know when. You'll feel like, man, this wasn't much of a workout. So we're going to start with an overhead press. It's always important to have very good posture. And you're going to start just like this, and he's going to press straight on up. And it is 8 to 10 reps that he's doing, and he would bring them down, and you can come on down with them, right there. And you would do 3 sets. That is where most would start, but here again, if you could just get that 1 set out, you're going somewhere. Okay, let's go with a tricep, and that would be straight up, right back, and the tricep is the underneath of the arm, and I know most of us females are going, we don't want this flabby. So, and you notice he's standing nice and straight. One of the things you could also do is you could do these exercises seated, but as Dr. Wells will point out, you're definitely working more your stabilizer muscles if you're standing. And another thing is when you're standing, you're burning more calories than when you're sitting. Good. The next move will be a bicep curl. Standing just like that, nice and tall again, and curl in.
Should I
And down.
inhale or exhale as I'm doing this?
Yes, definitely. On exertion of an exercise, you exhale.
Okay, so
Okay, yep. Make sure the shoulders, nice. Okay. And you can go ahead and put those weights down because we're going to go to the lower body. Starting with, here again, these are basics. You can add weights to some of these other moves that he's getting ready to do. And what we're going to go with is a backward lunge. If you'll go ahead and just step back. And you're going to drop that knee down. You're going to come up on that toe, drop it down. Watch that that knee doesn't go forward. You don't want that shear force.
keep this straight up and
Yes.
down.
So in the beginning, if this is all the farther that you can take it, great. If you feel unstable, go ahead and have a chair or a wall or something that you can hold on to.
Okay.
Okay? And you are going to do 8 on one leg, bring it up and together, and then you'll do 8 on the other leg. And then one of the things that I think all of us need to be aware of is when we're working the lower part of the body, we are working the larger muscle groups, and the larger muscle groups burn more calories. So let's go ahead and show them a squat, and I want your feet about shoulder width apart. You're going to up tall, keep that chest up, and you're going to shoot your tailbone back towards the wall, keeping it nice and tall.
What if I feel unsteady, like I'm going to fall back?
You could definitely put a chair behind you.
Okay.
You could hold onto a chair, or even a pole to start with would help you create. The main thing is to keep that chest up. If you are feeling pain in the knees, please do not go down as far, okay? To pain, not through pain.
So even just to here, I'm
Right.
still working out?
You're still working out,
Gotcha.
okay? And these are the muscles that get us up and down the stairs, in and out of the car. So they're really important muscles. So let's go ahead now, and we're going to do a side step.
Okay.
And you're just going to stand tall again, chest up, and step to the side, a little bit of squat. Yeah, and back. If that squat's too much for you, you can just do a side step to begin with. You will still be working those muscles. And you would do 12 one way and 12 back, or in some cases 8. So let's go ahead and go with the abdominal muscles.
Okay.
And you're going to go right down to the mat on your back. And we're going to do a torso curl. Torso curl, you're going to have your knees bent in 90 degrees. You can place your heels right into a ball or into a chair, whichever is more convenient, right? Like that, watching 90. You're going to reach back for your shoulder blades, way back there. You're going to make sure that your neck's in neutral and you're looking straight up. Don't want to be pulling that neck in. And now you're going to curl up, blowing that air out, and back down, and up. Good. Not only are we strengthening the abdominal, but we're also lengthening the back muscles that so many Americans do have problems with.
And if I can only come up just a little bit, is that all right?
That's great.
So even
Is
just
that
right
movement?
there?
Yes, because as you continue to work out, you will continue to increase flexibility, which is another benefit. Go ahead and put your arms right down to the side. We're going to do a reverse torso curl, which is where we would have a ball or a pillow here, or if you can keep your legs from swinging, you may not need it, and you're going to just come in making a C right up and down. Here again, we're working the lower portion of the abdominal muscle, but we're also lengthening that back muscle as we do these. Excellent. Okay, Dr. Wells, on up we come. Strength training is definitely one of the components, but there are other components of fitness. It would be cardiovascular. You have your flexibility. You definitely have to have proper nutrition. And the one that I think most of us forget to add in is how to keep ourselves
Motivated.
Yes, definitely. Motivation is, I think, tough for most of us. But if you stay consistent with a workout, you will love the results that you get. And remember, if you do your strength training, you're definitely going to burn more calories while you're sleeping. Woo!
Well, you've heard Dr. Dickerson mention Dr. Tim O'Shea in a previous story. Dr. O'Shea is very well researched on the issues of vaccination and has even written a book related to the subject. The reality is more and more informed parents are choosing not to vaccinate their children. It's never an easy decision for a parent to make. There's always fear, worry, even ridicule from others who don't agree. Being ostracized in the community is never easy, but the decision is so important it can affect a child's life and health forever. So it's important to be informed on this issue, whether you are a parent or not. The research is out there. So let's have Dr. Tim O'Shea put it all in perspective for us, because in the end, this lifelong decision is only as good as your education.
So if you were a child growing up in the 1980s, if you were a baby, you were getting about 20 vaccines at that time if you followed the mandated schedule. If you got all your shots on shot day in the 1980s, you were getting about 20 vaccines at that time. By the mid-90s, this number had doubled. Babies who grew up in the 90s were getting 40 vaccines by the time they reached 18 years old, if they got all the recommended vaccines on the mandated schedule. It really changed since then. Today, a child growing up, if he's getting all the recommended vaccines, will be receiving 68 vaccines by the time he's 18 years old if he gets every shot on the mandated schedule, which most children are. The majority of children in this country get all their shots. So we ask the question, does the health of our children really reflect this enormous doubling and tripling of the numbers of vaccines we are giving our children today? This is one of the topics that we take a look at in the textbook, the new textbook, Vaccination is Not Immunization. This is a textbook that summarizes some of the literature, some of the references, some of the best references available actually in the new area which I call problems with vaccines. And you may be surprised to discover that the objection to today's vaccine policies, the primary objections to the way we vaccinate kids today, is not coming primarily from the holistic arena or from the alternative medicine or the chiropractic arena. No, objection to today's vaccine policies is coming primarily from mainstream medicine, mainstream science, and mainstream law. And it is from this body of knowledge that this new textbook, Vaccination is Not Immunization, derives its sources. My target demographic, I guess, really for this book was the young parent, the parent who is first confronted with this decision, really, the decision of whether or not to vaccinate. Now, my opinion is that this is the most important decision that a parent will make in the life of a child, whether or not to vaccinate. So my opinion is also, how will that parent make the decision? Because I'm thinking that there's so much attention to vaccine problems today that even the parents who are just peripherally attentive to this will be wondering in the back of their mind, isn't there something about autism? You know, I don't know for sure. Or isn't there something about mercury? Isn't there something about SIDS death? Isn't there something about vaccine injury? Is there any way that I'm putting my brand new baby into harm's way? Is there any possibility that I'm putting him in harm's way by vaccinating? So this is the question that I feel is a momentous decision for young parents to confront for the first time. And my opinion also is that maybe it might be a good idea not to get all of their information about whether or not they vaccinate from sources who make a living marketing and selling vaccines. So, as I said, this is an enormous new field, the field which I call problems with vaccines. And what I've noticed in doing this lecture, you know, all over the world for the last 10 years, I always talk about how, you know, so many parents have come up to me in the last 10 years and they'll say, you know, Doc, I didn't vaccinate my child. And, you know, I'd always chat with them, but after a while, after the first few hundred times of that, I'd start saying, oh, really? And tell me about your child. What is the health of your unvaccinated child like in comparison with your friends' vaccinated children, let's say? And 100% of the time, the answer would come back to me, are you kidding? My kid is way healthier than all my friends' vaccinated children. And after that, I couldn't shut them up. You know, they went on and on just talking about how healthy their child was. Even if their unvaccinated child did get sick, he recovered, you know, in a day or so. It was very mild cold or something. And how, you know, he doesn't have any need for inhalers or ear tubes or any of the drugs and antibiotics that so many other children seem to be burdened with. And so it seemed to be something empirical, something that you could observe, something across the board. So at that point, this is several years ago now, I made this chapter on my website. The website is thedoctorwithin.com, and the chapter is called Parents of Unvaccinated Children. Parents of unvaccinated children. Now, to get on this list of parents of unvaccinated children, you have to fit 3 criteria. What are they? Number 1, your child is not vaccinated. Number 2, your child is in excellent health. And number 3, your child is in apparently better health than your friends' vaccinated children. Yes, I know it's empirical, it's anecdotal, right? Of course, it's not a controlled clinical trial, but just casually doing this, and I don't even write down half of the people that contact me, but over the years, you can look on my website and you can see a list of hundreds and hundreds of parents who fit these 3 criteria all over the world. And so it just seems to me to be an extremely important subject, the problems with vaccines, that a parent should take very seriously. So what I've tried to do in this textbook, Vaccination is Not Immunization, is make that process for young parents easier. I've done all your homework. There are over 300 references in this short book of 200 pages that will tell some of the best sources from mainstream medicine, mainstream science, discussing some possible problems that we might have with vaccines. As I said, in my opinion, if you are going to inject your child with vaccines, you should be sure of 3 things. Number 1, the vaccine is absolutely safe with no chance of harm to your child. Number 2, the vaccine has been proven to be absolutely effective. In other words, it really does what they say it does. It really prevents a disease. And number 3, that the vaccine is necessary, that the child truly needs your vaccine. And so if you are responsible for the health of your newborn, no one else is going to protect your newborn child. It's you who's going to do that. And the best way to do that, in my opinion, is to get information from people who are not necessarily making a living selling vaccines. Thank you very much.
We've come to the end of this month's show. I hope you've gained some knowledge in helping you live a healthy chiropractic lifestyle. With that, I want to thank all of our guests for taking the time from their busy schedules to share their expertise and advice with you. And just as our guests took the time to share their knowledge and their passion with you, don't let it end here. Share the information you've learned on this month's show with the people that you come across. By spreading the word, you may help someone else find the benefits of chiropractic for themselves and their loved ones, and with that, change their lives for the better. So as I mentioned earlier, on your way out, pick up a few of your doctor's cards and spread them around. Hand them to your family and your friends and tell them about the benefits of chiropractic care. Meanwhile, if you have any questions on what you've seen on this month's episode of LifePath, talk to your chiropractor. He or she is a great source of information that can help you in making healthy choices in your life. And as far as our show is concerned, we've come to the end. So get out there and start moving, living, and enjoying life. Your health is in your hands. So make right choices, live well, and enjoy your journey powered by the chiropractic lifestyle.